What's up, fight fans? UFC 261 was an insane event. It was the first event with a full arena in the USA ever since the pandemic started. The whole arena was electric with chants from the crowd from start to finish. And boy, did it deliver. There were some amazing fights, and we believe that, apart from the injuries, this may be one of the best events of the year. Before we get started, make sure to bust that subscribe button and bell icon in the balls. Thanks everyone, it means a lot. Okay, let's jump right in. The main card started unassumingly with a fight between Anthony Smith and Jimmy Croot. Anthony has had his ups and downs in his career. He had several dominant wins, but he was also dominated by the likes of champion Jon Jones and Glover Teixeira, and Jimmy Croot is one hungry up-and-comer. So we expected to see some fireworks coming in. Anthony started off the first round with his educated jab, stiffing up Croot's face. Even though Croot was taking Anthony's jabs, you could still see that Anthony was working him up. Croot tried to land a few shots of his own, and at a critical point in the fight, Anthony Smith landed a devastating low kick that landed right above the back of Croot's knee. As Croot tried to find his footing, his foot gave out, to the roar of the crowd witnessing it. The most fascinating thing here was that Croot didn't lose composure, and, even though he wasn't able to stand straight, he took Anthony to the ground, where he kept him until the end of the first round. The UFC doctor told Croot to walk a bit to check his leg. Croot slammed his chest, screaming that he was ready to bang. However, just as he was taking a step, his foot gave way once again, and the doctor stopped the fight as a TKO win for Anthony.
It's coming back a little bit, Joe. Yeah, it looks like it's coming back. Oh my God.
It goes into the books as a TKO for Anthony Smith, boys.
The second fight was Uriah Hall versus Chris Weidman. We were totally stoked about this fight, as these two are old school fighters. Uriah Hall is one of the most talented fighters that we have seen in the UFC, shutting the lights off of multiple opponents with his devastating kicks. Chris Weidman, on the other hand, was a reigning UFC champion in the middleweight division at one time. You could feel the electricity of the crowd and the buzz in the arena when these two fighters were coming into the octagon. The fight started, and one of the most terrifying things that we have ever seen in the octagon happened. Chris Weidman wanted to make a statement that he was in the fight to win it and dominate Uriah. So he threw a vicious calf kick, aiming to cripple Uriah's leg early on. Unfortunately for him, the exact opposite happened. Uriah saw the calf kick coming and put his knee out to block it. Weidman's shin landed right in Uriah's knee, and then snapped in half for one of the most gruesome, devastating injuries that we've seen. The irony is that the former champion Anderson Silva had the same thing happen to him in his second fight against none other than Chris Weidman.
Oh, nice. He checked it. No. He hurt his leg.
This means that Hall won the fight via TKO. However, we can't say that this is one of the most well-deserved victories. The crowd didn't have the chance to collect their impressions yet when the third fight started. Reigning women's flyweight champion Valentina Shevchenko versus the challenger Jessica Andrade. We really thought, even hoped, that Andrade had it in her to demolish Shevchenko on the ground. After all, she appeared to be a lot stockier than her opponent, which signaled that she could have slammed her on the ground easily. Alas, this didn't happen. Valentina showed what she was made of by dominating Jessica in every aspect of fighting, and, surprisingly, especially on the ground. She took Andrade down numerous times and in a dominant fashion, slamming her to the ground with double underhooks and getting right into side control. Andrade tried to pick up Shevchenko once, but she proved to be too heavy for her. Eventually, after one of her body slams, Shevchenko climbed to the dreaded crucifix position, after which she started landing punches against the immobilized Andrade. Eventually, the punches got converted to elbows, and this is where we saw blood coming out of helpless Andrade's face. Referee Dan Maragliotta was having none of it, and after seeing that Andrade couldn't defend herself, stopped the fight, declaring Shevchenko as the reigning champion in the flyweight division. And now we have what was expected to be one of the most volatile fights in women's MMA. Rose Namajunas, the challenger, faced the dominant champion Zhang Weili in the UFC strawweight division. Bearing in mind the violent past fights that Weili had, we expected that this fight would follow suit. But Rose was in a trance. She was saying to herself that she's the best during Bruce Buffer's announcements. She looked razor-focused. The fight started and Rose immediately started dictating the tempo, dancing around and moving. It was obvious that Weili was trying to follow what Rose was doing, but Rose has a very high fight IQ, and she noticed this immediately. So she started measuring her distance and throwing in some jabs and feints for good measure. Then, at one point in the first round, out of nowhere, Rose threw a devastating left high kick after feigning a low kick. Weili took the bait and almost got KO'd on the spot. Rose threw in a few additional shots in Weili's face, and the referee had seen enough at that point. Finally, we have the main event of the evening. The crowd was, by now, primed for violence, given the crazy matches that it had witnessed by then. Jorge Masvidal was about to challenge reigning champion Kamaru Usman for the welterweight title. Every fight fan's heart was pounding at the beginning of the first round. Jorge did all right in the first. He measured his distance and started landing shots. He tried to throw some flying knees and front kicks to the face, but Kamaru was not taking the bait. Kamaru took Jorge down to the ground after a botched flying knee attempt, but Jorge held his own on the ground this time around. He landed some vicious strikes right in Kamaru's head from the ground. However, Kamaru went into overdrive in the next round. When it seemed that Jorge finally found his ground and that he had measured the distance in opponents' reactions, Kamaru went in for the kill. He feinted a jab, which Jorge tried to parry and throw a check hook of his own. However, Kamaru put all his mind in his right cross and almost blew Masvidal's head out of the octagon. It was one of the most powerful fight-ending shots that we've seen. The crowd roared with amazement, and Kamaru once again defended his throne. What an event! Excluding the injuries, all the fights were awesome. It seems that Kamaru is in here for the long run and that he keeps improving his game with every new opponent he faces. It's time we put some respect on his name. But what's your opinion? Share it with us in the comments below. Make sure to like our video and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Until next time, thanks for watching, and as always, stay awesome!